Oh boy, this is the video I've been dying to make and I want to talk about. Today, I'm talking about the movie Quid Games that came out in 2023 and I only discovered it a couple of weeks ago. This is going to be a spoiler review discussion kind of video. I'm going to break this down slightly. But if you want to know very quickly what my non-spoiler thoughts are, this movie definitely felt like it was made on a quid. But besides that, it's going to be spoilers, so let's get into this. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Mike and thank you for tuning into this video and I appreciate you taking your own time out to check this out. Now, Quid Games, I mean, of course, by this point everyone probably knows of Squid Games if you've watched it or you haven't, right? So also last year on the channel, I believe it was, I reviewed a movie called The Octo Games. Oh, it was 2022. I'll be honest, at this point, I can't really remember. So, The Octo Games was terrible, right? So, when I heard a Quid Game, I was like, oh, no, here we go. Like, what is this? I never even heard of it. This went under the radar, and it's actually on Amazon Prime as I'm recording this video, and that's how I got to check out this movie. So, going into absolute spoilers, buckle up, because this is going to be a ride. Stop what you're doing because the link down below is to my Patreon. If you're not already a member, membership's £1 per month. You get access to so much early stuff, videos, competitions, giveaways, and so much more. Get your name in the limelight like these absolute legends. Thank you to all of them who helped to support me and Patreon. It really, really means a lot. What are you waiting for? Become a legend yourself. Get your name in the limelight, and I'll see you over there at Patreon. The director at the helm here is someone called Evan Baker. He also is a writer alongside two other people, and I believe that this is the only work that Evan Baker has ever done. Now, we've got a couple of cast members here that include, and I'm going to read them from my sheet, we've got Nell, Kessler, Erik, Bloomquist, and Rachel Oremland, if I've got that right. And we've got many others as well, and we'll touch on some of those characters as this goes along. And if you're wondering, okay, well, what is the premise of Quid Games? Well, basically, it's set on 7 college students who get a text kind of out of the blue. And this text is specifically just for those 7 people that we later find out as the movie goes along in the first 10-15 minutes. And this text basically says there's going to be an exclusive party at a warehouse on like that Friday, I believe it is, and they've been exclusively invited. Now, as these friends start talking to one another, whether it's in a coffee shop or whether it's in a library, they then learn that each one of them has been sent this text and ultimately find out it's only them who's been sent this and no one else on the college campus. So firstly, right at the bat, you're going to think, well, why the heck am I going to go to what I know is an abandoned factory? And they reference that this is an abandoned factory. Before they even get to this point, they're going to go to this abandoned factory for this exclusive party, right? Although I'm sure the college themselves could have like dormitories or they could have these parties somewhere. But no, they decide they want to go to this abandoned factory, right? So that is our premise to get things off the bat. Next, we get to the point where our 7 characters, and we're going to get into a little bit of backstory and how they know each other and stuff. They get to this warehouse, and when they get to this warehouse, there is 3 creepy ass people stood there with masks, don't introduce themselves whatsoever, so you don't even know who they are, but are stood there in masks, and one of them have a tray of drinks, offering them drinks, right, to start this party, so to say. So one of the guys will think, wow, great, free drinks. So they go straight in for the free drinks. And the rest of them are kind of like, this looks a bit sus. I mean, there's one kind of character who's like curled over like this. And like that's how they're stood like this. And I'm like, who the fuck is this creepy fucker right here? You know, yeah, I'm just like, who is that? So anyway, they ultimately decide, yeah, well, actually, let's go inside. Although they're right at the vehicles, and straight away, bear in mind, number 1, red flag, is an abandoned factory. Number 2 is these creepy ass people that don't even know. Number 3 is they've got a tray of drinks or shots, and who knows what those drinks have been laced with. So straight away, these characters think, yes, let's go in this warehouse. Let's have a absolute cracker of a party. And I'm just thinking, what utter dumbasses. So, to get to a bit more of context of this story. So Nell Kessler plays a character called Amber, and I'll be honest, her and Rachel Oremland are basically the only kind of saving graces of this movie, and that's kind of about it. Right, but anyway, Amber is dating Erik Bloomquist called Steve. Well, they used to date, but they're now exes. We learn early on that Steve is cheated on Amber with Amber's best friend, Whitney, played by Rachel Oremland. So we know that from the get-go, but Amber doesn't, and she learns that towards the end, which we'll get into, right? So they go into this warehouse, they start dancing when this random like EDM music comes on, and the music, yeah, it's not terrible. I've heard better, but I've heard worse as well, right? So they start partying, but in this abandoned warehouse, it's not as if it's been made like a disco or anything. They have disco lights, but there's all just like these kind of just blocks of wood on the floor, and these kind of like all sorts of rubble and dust. It looks terrible. It looks as if it's not being used. It's derelict, but they decide, heck, we're just going to dance, right? There's no bar or anything, or drinks either. Bear in mind, this is meant to be a party. And yeah, these three creeps basically put this kind of gas in there, gas them out, and then they all kind of wake up, and ultimately leads to our plot where they've got to play children's games to survive. So we get children's games here like musical chairs, hopscotch, and dodgeball, and we get a couple of others. And I'll be honest with you guys, the acting, besides those two names of Nell Kessler and Rachel Oremland, everyone else is terrible. They're absolutely awful, and I mean really bad. Like there's one guy, Tyler. He's like trying to be the hard man, being like, "What are you creeps doing in here? Get us out of here! I'm gonna knock you out if I get to you." But like he's like so over exaggerating everything that he's saying to try sound like a tough guy. It comes off so corny and cringy. It is truly awful. It really, really is. And I don't know if that's part of the actor or just the script telling them to kind of do that. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to blame the script because this is written by three people. I don't know how it took three people to write this crap, but it took three people to write this crap, right? So, we've got three people, bear in mind, writing this script, which is a Quid Games knockoff. I don't know how it takes three people, but it did, okay? So, the movie goes on. One by one in these games, one of the 7 college students get killed off, right? They get like, basically how they die is whoever loses in the game gets a dart in this neck. And this dart apparently has some really contagious poison, and it basically kills that person pretty quickly, okay? So it's cheaply done, okay? Fair enough, that's the route they're going to go for. So, as this goes on, as one of them are getting killed off and stuff like that, when we get to the next challenge, or these characters have been gassed out and they get tied up and to get to the next game, because that's how they all get to the next game, basically. They get tied up, they get knocked out with gas. When they wake up, they're at the next game. So, the kind of silly thing is, with all of that, is once they are kind of knocked out and everything, we get these flashback sequences, which come from like out of nowhere, by the way. There is a point where some of the characters are wondering, well, who's doing all this and like how's this all started and stuff. So I guess in that regard, it makes sense to a certain extent. When I mean a certain extent, I mean maybe 10% out of 100, guys. 1/10. It's that much of an extent, right? So anyway, they have these flashback scenes, and it basically shows that our characters in the past have been utter dicks, right? They've been either bullies, or they've been filming kind of like events where there's fights or something like that, and they shouldn't have, and they were a nightmare for their school teachers back in school, right? Which is only a couple of years before they went to college. So ultimately, we get these flashbacks straight away, even though it's not even asked for, warranted, anything that, we just get them randomly. So as the movie progresses, again, one by one gets knocked off. There's a point where they're playing hopscotch, and this was so funny. They're playing hopscotch, and then like Tyler, I'm pretty sure it's Tyler, he's like, yeah, like, because Steven, the main guy who's been cheating, it says to him, he's like, man, like smash the window with like a block of wood. So he goes to smash the window, and he's like, oh, we're on the 5th floor up, right? And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Well, you're not going to, smash a glass from the 5th floor up. You could shout for help, but you're ultimately not going to jump out from that window. You're going to probably die, right? Or you're going to break a lot of bones in your body, which ultimately, you might as well play those games at this point. However, when they start playing hopscotch, you actually see some car lights going past the window. So it's clearly not filmed on the 5th floor. It's clearly filmed on like the ground floor, 1st floor, like absolute maximum. And I just found it so funny that the car lights are clear as day as they go by. It was absolutely horrendous, but it was so funny. So we get to our final challenge and we get our final 3. We get Amber, Stephen, and we get Whitney. Now the masked players force basically at this point for this love story to come out. So Steve admits to Amber that he's been sleeping with Whitney, her best friend, and 3 of them play red light, green light to end the last game, where it's not like a doll turnaround. It's basically the main person in the mask saying red light, green light, red light, green light, whatever. And of course, if you move on the red light, you get eliminated. And obviously in this case, you die, right? So Steve ends up dying because he goes on the red light. So we're left with the 2 girls. So after a little bit of confrontation and talk and all that kind of stuff, although in this scene there's a point where it's shot at nighttime. They've got the lights, so at least it looks like well lit, this room. But they turn to Whitney in one shot and it's lit, and then they turn back to Steve and Amber and it's pitch dark in the same scene where it's meant to be like there's light on to make this room light. It was dark. They switch it back and then they switch to her again. And then the room's light again. So the tonal consistency of the cinematography is absolutely all over the shop. So we get to the point where Whitney dies by the dart and it's only Amber left. And she's basically the final girl. So these 3 masked individuals come over. They take the masks off for this big reveal. And it turns out that the 3 people in the masks are 3 teachers from back in school who dealt with these 6 other people in this 7-people group from these college students, as the 6 of them were utter terrors and horrible for them to teach in school. And the school teachers are basically these killers, right? Who apparently have some of the janitors in on this whole situation, so that's how they do these cleanups. And I just thought, what a pathetic attempt of a reveal. How stupid can you get? Because these kids were a nightmare in school, you're going to put them through these games and kill them? It's so dumb, guys. It is utterly dumb. And then what makes this so laughable is that Amber is like, oh, I just want to say my goodbyes to them, because these 3 give her a choice of being like, well, if you don't join and help us, we're going to kill you. So she's going to say goodbye to the characters. She grabs like this poison dart and stabs each one of them, although none of them try to fight her off. She just stabs them. And they make the worst attempts ever of being dead and going to the floor, where literally as they fall down, they put their hands on the floor and then decide, like that, and then they die. I just thought it was so funny the way they did it. And basically she's left as the final girl and we get kind of a post-credit scene, but that's basically how this movie ends. And as I say, if you can take any redeeming qualities from that, I mean, my hat's off to you, kind folks. But apart from Nell, Kessler and Rachel Oremland, who the 2 girls, at least you could tell they were trying. Out of any of the characters, those 2 were the most believable out of any one of them. This was just flat out awful, and those actresses deserve way better. So my overall score for Quid Games is a 1 out of 5 stars. Have you seen Quid Games? Are you going to check it out, or are you going to skip this one completely? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel by clicking the red button down below, check out these videos right here if you already haven't, and dive into more content, more reviews and more exciting videos. Until next time, I'll see you guys. I'll be seeing you later.